Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. While addressing the Munich Security Conference, Vice President Vance, in sort of veiled language, maybe not so veiled, accused European countries of exercising some manner of censorship. It's an important point. Let's take a listen.
In Britain and across Europe, free speech, I fear, is in retreat. So I come here today not just with an observation, but with an offer. And just as the Biden administration seemed desperate to silence people for speaking their minds, so the Trump administration will do precisely the opposite, and I hope that we can work together on that.
I want to bring in our reporter panel. Tom LoBianco is the founder and national politics reporter for 24 Site News. Stephanie Lai is White House correspondent for Bloomberg. Stephanie joins us from Munich. Tom is right here with me at the table. Stephanie, I want to start with you. That reference to censorship, how did that land with the Europeans who were there to listen to the vice president?
Well, the room was packed, but it didn't seem like many of the applause lines in his speech garnered much response from the people in the audience. There were a couple of chuckles here and there, but for the most part, it seemed like the crowd was quite stiff when he was speaking. Now, part of that is because the speech was essentially Vice President JD Vance's chance to assail leaders at the Munich Security Conference in his address that really threatened to inflame the growing rifts between the U.S. and Europe. And it really failed to quell the concerns among European allies that were already rankled from President Donald Trump's remarks earlier this week about the handling of the war in Ukraine and some of his comments on tariffs.
And Stephanie, as I read the speech and looked over it, it appeared that the vice president was saying, look, you have in these various European countries a rising sentiment among some of your people that are with hard right political instincts. That's troublesome in Germany. It's possibly troublesome in other European countries. And what Vance was saying, if I heard it correctly, was you better heed these voters, because if you continue to ignore or push them aside, they're going to grow stronger. Is that the way the room heard it?
It does seem like that was how it was received. And in fact, he also had a similar sentiment at the AI summit in Paris when he said that AI technology had been used by some of our foreign allies and adversaries to censor political views. And that was in line with what you had mentioned on this populist, this growing right wing across the world. And I think JD Vance's message was very much that, if the U.S. is to get involved, you cannot be continuing to do this sort of thing with your AI technologies and in your policies.
Stand by, Stephanie. Tom, this is the vice president sort of giving voice to a kind of free speech permissiveness. All speech is good, even if it, if not terrifies, rankles those, for example, in Germany who are concerned about the rise of what appear to them to be far-right sentiments.
Yeah, well, take it in context. This comes before the German elections.
Right.
That we're going to have. It mirrors a lot of the language that Elon Musk has used.
Right, and posted on X.
Yeah, and if you look at it, you talk about free speech, okay? And, certainly, we appreciate more than anybody the First Amendment. But in this universe where people are dialed into their phones constantly, where X has in some ways become the official government platform, and certainly in some cases, there's an incredible amount of false news out there. Whatever you term that, it's wrong. All right. Often promoted by one of the most powerful figures in the world right now, Elon Musk.
And Europeans are skeptical of that. They have different rules and regulations about what constitutes hate speech, damaging speech, disinformation. And even one of the things that the vice president talked about is, well, your efforts to control that or police the social media space more aggressively than we do are by definition censorship. That's not the way the Europeans view it.
No, not at all. And it also comes as Germany has asked for data on how Elon Musk is amplifying the false information, because they want to know. He is the most powerful political force at the moment right now. And, we also saw that Vance met with Alice Weidel, the head of the AfD party, extreme right. It has some neo-Nazi stuff in its past. Whether or not that's still the case, it is very extreme right. How you interpret that is very important. And what Vance is saying, whether he means that heed the populace or whether he's using it to amplify and help out the AFD.
Exactly. Heed or amplify. That's a huge question. Stephanie, I want to play for you something that Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said in Poland today that I'm certain also attracted quite a bit of attention on the continent. Let's listen.
The American troop levels on the continent are important. What happens 5 or 10 or 15 years from now is part of a larger discussion that reflects the threat level, America's posture, our needs around the globe, but most significantly, the capability of European countries to step up. And that's why our message is so stark to our European allies. Now is the time to invest, because you can't make an assumption that America's presence will last forever.
One thing definitely true about what the defense secretary said, the message was stark. True, Stephanie?
Yes, and this is something that we've been hearing from many members of Trump's administration, not just the defense secretary, but also Vice President JD Vance in his remarks this week really emphasized the point that the U.S. is not going to be a partner that can just continue to prop up every single country's defense funds. His main message in his bilateral meetings with many world leaders this week alone has been that Europe has to step up its security guarantees and spending. And so I think this message is very clear in that, immediately there is interest. I think Trump had even said earlier this week that he would be open to more aid to Ukraine, but that interest comes with the caveat that this isn't a guarantee forever.
Not a guarantee forever, and probably in exchange for investment in rare earth minerals in Ukraine or other commodities there of interest to the Trump administration. Tom LoBianco here at the desk. Stephanie Lai in Munich, thank you very much. Stand by. Later in the show, we'll bring you back for more conversation.